Hello, everyone. I'm Herschel Franklin. I am a person of little significance, but nonetheless, I want to read to you. I feel it's important that we read together. And I want to start by reading a small book, a short book. This book. It is called One Dog Story. It is the subtitled A Book About Life. And it's a book that I wrote. It's copyrighted, I think, back in 2009. Now, normally when I would read you something, and I intend to read this, I hope to post at least a chapter a week. They're short. It won't take very long for me to do it. It won't take very long for you to listen to it. I hope you enjoy it. Now, normally when I was reading something, I always read the introduction, I read the preface, and I read the foreword, and I read the dedication, and I read who published it and when it was published. Well, this book has no introduction, so I can't read that to you. There is an appendix later on that I will read at the end of the book. But it's, I think you need to know why I wrote this book. My father died in 1978. He was 59 years old. I will tell you that right now, this is being recorded in the last, let's see, this is about the 30th day of December in 2024. I'm 80 years old. Now, my mother, she lived nearly 30 years after my father's passing, and then she died in 2007 at the age of 90. And in talking to the kids in the family, particularly the grandkids, it occurred to me that many of them never knew my father, their grandfather. Many of them knew him but didn't really have accurate memories of him. And so I felt it was important that I write something about him before he just went off totally into oblivion. Well, I worked on that for quite some time and never could get it started, never could adequately even begin. And then I doubted whether or not I even had the patience to write a book, even a small book. And then I got to thinking, well, I'm having trouble with this. Maybe I should try a different subject. I used to have a dog by the name of Murphy. Now, Murphy was a yellow lab. She was one of the greatest dogs I ever knew. And I've had dogs all my life, but she was an exceptional dog. Smart, attentive, devoted. She was just a wonderful dog. And I thought, you know, I think I'll try writing a little book about Murphy, because if I can have the discipline to sit and write about her, then maybe I do have the discipline to sit and write about my dad. And if I can make people interested in a dog's story, then surely I could make them interested in his story. So that's what I did. I sat down and I wrote this book. I quit working in 2007, and my wife and I had two small children at that time. We had adopted, and I would get them off to school. She would leave the house going to work, and I would sit there and write at the kitchen bar, the island, and it was a very pleasurable experience, and I was very happy with the work. Once it was finished, once I got it printed, it was a very enjoyable experience. Now, I briefly set out trying to find an agent, and it just, I don't know, it became more of a hassle than it was worth. And besides that, I wasn't doing it for the money. I wasn't doing it for the notoriety. I was doing it to leave a record for mainly kids, grandkids, and so forth. So that's why this book is written. On the back of the book, I'll show you right there, that's kind of what I looked like back in those days. And on the back of the book, there is a little blurb that says, Murphy, a dog of wonder and imagination, tells her story with occasional input from her human. It is the story of her long life, 15 years, in which she grew from a pup with all the silly puppiness one would expect to a wise and mature dog. During these years, she meets the love of her life, a boxer named Bo, which is spelled B-E-A-U, and that becomes significant in the story itself, but whose human called him Bo, B-O, and you will understand that when we get to that part of the story. She also recreates the affection she developed for her human and shares the close bond the two of them had. I will read to you, since it's here, the dedication. It's for Oliver and Martha Jane, who lived with Murphy several years. If these stories help them remember her, it has been worthwhile. And that takes us to the chapter 1. Now, the way the story is told is the dog story. When I tell you the dog story, that means Murphy is telling her side of the story. When I read to you the human story, it's telling you that I'm now telling you my side of the story. So it begins. Chapter 1, Reflections of the Dog. The dog story. I am an old dog with a story to tell. Just as with humans, as we get older, we come to realize how much we have lived and how many stories we have accumulated. When we put our stories together, we have compiled the memories of life, enhanced by the stories of parents and grandparents, if we are fortunate. And those memories and stories are all we really have of those times. Good times or bad times, the memories are the essence of our lives. We want to tell the stories, and we want them preserved by someone who cares. That way, we attain a sense of immortality. My given name was Martha. My mama named me, and that was all she ever called me, the only name by which she ever knew me. My human gave me the name of Murphy. They called me Murphy Brown after a character in a sitcom, and they called me Murphy for short, and sometimes even shortening that to Murph. I took pride in the name, even though at first it seemed like a betrayal to my mama to respond when called by something other than what she had called me. I have learned a lot during my life, and I have discovered there are dogs who never get a name, so how could I possibly complain that well-meaning humans gave me a new one? We have come to depend on humans for our very existence. They provide us with shelter and food, so much so that we don't hunt anymore, and we never did like to live as scavengers. We formed a bond with humans a long time ago out of mutual necessity. They needed us, and we needed them. Over the many years since that first dog crept into that first cave with a human, seeking the warmth of the fire which the human had discovered how to create, we have formed a strong, mutually beneficial relationship. But it is the dog that has paid the greater price. The dog can no longer provide for himself and can no longer live without the shelter provided by the humans. The humans expect obedience from us and expect us to respond to the name they give us. They often decide with what other dogs we will mate, and even whether or not we will mate at all. In their wisdom, they have determined that we should be limited in the size of families we may have. Even though this is for our own good, they say, because there are too many homeless dogs, and there are, it still seems like a premium price for us to have to pay. We have given up our independence to be their friend. So why do we do it? Because it is the most practical thing we can do. Their decisions are wise. They have shown that they are superior in intelligence and that they can accomplish remarkable things, especially when they stop fighting each other and try to work together. They have also shown a devotion to my kind, a devotion to the dog family of the world. They cry when we are abused. They call on their many talents to benefit us and pass laws prohibiting our abuse. Of course, there are bad humans, just as there are bad dogs. There are humans who mistreat dogs, sometimes out of ignorance, and sometimes just out of pure meanness. Those humans are the exception, not the general rule. We sometimes laugh at them because their conviction and confidence has a tendency at times to convert itself into pomposity. We of the dog family sometimes joke among ourselves that the humans would be working for us if they didn't have those opposable thumbs. They give as good as they get, sometimes claiming that if we, the dogs, had opposable thumbs, we could enjoy some of the things they enjoy. My human told me that one time, as he was swimming in his pool, he said, "You know, dog, you could have one of these too if you only had opposable thumbs." I remember another time watching my human as he worked in the yard. It was a hot day, and he was sweating. And as I lay in the cool of the shade of the tree, I looked at him and held up my right front foot. I was mocking him, pretending to close my imaginary index finger to my imaginary thumb in a gesture to show that working hard in the yard on a hot day was also what he got for having an opposable thumb. Of course, it was lost on him because he simply saw a dog waving its right front paw in the air. Perhaps that opposable thumb is overrated. I've been told that a monkey has the same thing, and it even has an opposable large toe on each foot. And it too is dominated by the human. So maybe it isn't the thumb that makes the human so advanced. Perhaps we were right in our first opinion toward them. Perhaps it is their reasoning capacity. For the most part, humans have shown a kindness toward my kind. There has never been any doubt that they care for us, that our fondness or their fondness is genuine and heartfelt. But the main reason we do it, the main reason we have given up our independence to be their friend, is because we like them. We truly like humans. We almost recognize and honor them as if they were a member of the pack, a member of the dog family. You can give up a lot. You can pay premium prices for someone you love, even humans. I have been blessed in that I've only had one human during my lifetime, and he was a good human. He cared for me and I cared for him. We shared our lives and home for a long time. There were moments of sadness and grief, but mainly there was a lifetime of shared happiness. We had another dog, he and I, and that dog's name was Beau, B-E-A-U. My human called him Beau, B-O, but that was not his name. Beau was quite particular about his name. He let me know when we first met that I should call him Beau, not Beau, even though neither my human nor I could really tell a difference. Beau could definitely tell a difference. He could hear a subtle difference between the two pronunciations, and he repeatedly tried to get me to hear the difference too. I finally told him I could tell a difference, but I really never could. It sounded the same to me, but Beau seemed happy and contented to be told that I could hear a difference. I loved Beau with all my heart. I loved my human too, but there was a devotion for Beau, reserved for someone special. In another time and another place, he and I could have been happily mated and raised a large, loving family. Human intervention prevented that from ever happening. But without human intervention, I would never have met him in the first place. My human will never know how much I appreciate the years I had with Beau, and will never know how much I appreciate his enabling that to happen. The human story. It was a warm summer evening. The sun had gone down and there was just a slight hint of coolness piercing the air, which had been heated by the sun only a short time before. We lived in the country where the darkness can envelop you. It is frightening to some, but I've always found a curious comfort and a calmness in the darkness of night. The air was calm and stars dotted the darkened sky. It was an easy evening to sit outside and smell the freshness of newly mowed grass while listening to night sounds. Coyotes were howling in the distance and crickets were chirping their mating songs nearby. Somewhere a night bird was singing, and I imagined it was for my own personal enjoyment. As I relaxed in a lawn chair, I noticed Murphy nearby, quietly content, sitting and staring at me. It was not an uncommon thing, as she had done this for years. Since she was a pup, she had been a devoted dog. I had had other dogs that seemed loyal, but she was different. I had never before had a dog content to sit and stare at me. She wasn't a pup any longer. She was older, and there were some things she couldn't do anymore. But there were some things I couldn't do anymore either. She couldn't fetch a ball and retrieve it like she could when she was younger, but neither could I throw it like I once did. Dogs, they say, age 7 years for each year we age 1. I was 45 years old when she was born. When I was 46, she was 7. At 47, she was 14. When I reached 51, she turned 42. At 52, she was 49. By the time I was 53, she was 56. 56 years old in human years. She had become older than me, And each year after that, she got considerably older. She had health problems related to age, and so did I. We had grown old together, and sitting outside in the evening, enjoying the sounds and smells of the night, was something that brought a quiet contentment to both our lives. That's the end of chapter 1. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, listening. I'll be back with the next chapter.